create a 10-minute or less highlight reel of the best stuff out of the webinar that will get them wanting to see the offer and send them that highlight reel.
This is the Phunnel Podcast with Jody Jelas.
Welcome to another episode of the Phunnel Podcast with Jody Jelas. Today, we are talking about a particular kind of funnel. So I'm going to be honest with you, webinars. I've never liked doing them. I don't often like sitting on them because they are long and I have a really short ADHD attention span. Now, the thing with webinars is there are webinars that I've listened to the end, but for me, it's because it's someone who's really smart at webinars and I have been funnel hacking their tactics to see how I can help clients who do like webinars and are successful with webinars. So my friend Victoria Gibson loves webinars, does really well off them, and is always telling me I just haven't done enough of them. And maybe she's right, but I'm a 4 free video series kind of girl. So what I wanted to do today though is talk about the clients of mine who have had massive success with webinars and give you the strategies that we have used to help them be successful. Now, I'm going to be talking about the 3-sided automated webinar. It's the webinar on steroids, and it's probably different to anything you've seen out there. Unless you've read this book, we'll put a picture of it on the screen for you that I did a chapter on specifically about this type of webinar. So these guys are absolute geniuses. So it was an absolute privilege to be a part of this book and write a chapter about it. I used to call this the whirlwind momentum formula. Now, the reason I called it that is when you're coming at them from all these different angles, it creates this vortex, this momentum of building trust and building a relationship with a potential client until they become an actual client. So this is really a webinar on steroids, and I'm going to take you through every single step here. There's 10 steps to this particular webinar. So this funnel came about because I had a client who was doing very well with webinars in terms of opt-in. He was getting an 83% opt-in rate. Now that is exceptional. A lot of people will say 20% opt-in rate on a funnel is all you really need. But I was never happy with that. I always gun for at least 35% opt-in rate. So here he was getting 83% opt-in rate to his webinar. Here was the issue. People were not staying till the end. They never saw his offer. They weren't converting. And we knew they were interested because having a high opt-in rate like that, it was showing that the audience is hungry for that type of content. They were reading the title, and we had split test some titles, but it didn't matter what title we used, it still had a high opt-in rate. People were hungry for the content, but they didn't stick around. So that's when we decided we're going to create this webinar based on how people like to consume content. We wanted to get inside the mind of the people who were watching this webinar or not watching it, more to the point. So I'm going to take you through the 10 steps of a high converting webinar. So again, this applies to live or fully automated. The first step is your traffic. Where is your traffic coming from? Is it Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads? Is it organic social media on any of the platforms? Is it people on your list? Understanding where the traffic comes from helps you get inside the mind of that buyer. If they already know you, then you've already got some touch points. But you've got to design your funnels for the lowest common denominator in terms of the relationship you've built with them. So if somebody doesn't know you from a bar of soap and they're coming from cold ads, then you need to make sure that your funnel caters to them. So knowing your target audience, knowing where the traffic is coming into the funnel is step 1. Understanding that and making sure that if you were in their shoes, watching the customer journey through the whole funnel to make sure it would suit them. Number 2. The webinar itself. So it's okay to still do 60 to 90 minute webinars. If it's a 30-minute webinar, also okay, especially if you're using this strategy. The length of the webinar you can play with, but it doesn't matter if it's long. Some people are going to watch it. I had one client who had a $12,000 offer and they had a massive conversion rate from their webinar. Helps that it was high ticket as well. The goal at the end of it was to get people on a call. And the reason that this did very well is instead of using slides, they were demonstrating a type of therapy. So instead of having slides and working like a traditional webinar that you would expect. They actually demonstrated like they would if they were in the front of a room at one of their events. So they're taking that modality in front of the room and just recording it. So it wasn't a completely new and different modality. You could do slides to explain this and add in some videos, but that was going to be boring, and it needed to be, true and authentic to their brand. So they would physically demonstrate. So the other thing about webinars is you may have seen one of my other videos where I talk about how I hate the stack. In webinars, at the end, when they're creating the offer, they come up with all of these bonuses. Tons and tons and tons of bonuses. And I feel like it's extremely salesy at times, but most importantly, I want to treat my potential customers like they're smart people, because that's the kind of people I would like to work with. I feel like that you're insulting their intelligence when you're doing all this stacking, but you also get this, but you also get this, but you also get this. Like, they know that you're chucking on all of these bonuses that probably isn't costing you much. You're saying, and it's valued at this. It's probably not. And it's bullshit. And I've never felt comfortable with the stack. If you can make your webinar feel very authentic and make them feel like the next best thing is that they're in the room with you, then that's the kind of webinar I believe is going to convert the best. Not just believe it. Statistically, from clients, I can prove that. I think that's another way, another reason I didn't like webinars in the past, that it wasn't really for me. They felt too structured and inauthentic, and a kind of rebel like myself doesn't like fitting into that perfect webinar structure. I'd prefer to jump on a live for an hour and just spew out what my thoughts are and how I can help them get from A to Z. Definitely happy to do that. But even then, I don't know, webinars just didn't work well for me. So when it comes to things like the stack or how you do your slides, there is a process to follow and some things that you want to hit. Another thing about your content, and I'm talking heavy about point 2 here about what's in your webinar, is people encourage you upfront to give credibility, to do a slide that's about you. And they do it really early on in the process because they think that they're going to listen to all your credentials and go, I should really listen to this person. They really know their shit. All I can think of is the basics of marketing, which is you've got to help them and what's in it for them. Not it's all about me, me, me. So I feel if you put that about slide too early, it's actually a way you're going to drive them away because they're like, man, this person's just jumping on here and talking all about themselves. You can seed credibility while you're teaching them through your webinar. For example, you might be giving them a strategy or a technique or a tactic. You can apply a story to it of a client that you've worked with. It's giving credibility to show that you've been doing this long enough to have actual clients. You're teaching them, so results in advance. You're actually giving them useful stuff that they can go and use that's going to be powerful for them. It's just more authentic, and it's not on about yourself, which I hate to do. And it is just your opportunity to share that you know what you're doing, you know that you're an expert in your industry, and you've already got clients, you're already working with people. So those are my main things about your webinar. And when it comes to selling, do it in a way that you're inviting them to come and work with you. I am all for scarcity still, which we're going to talk about next, and urgency, but make sure it's legit. So number 3, legit close off time and legit scarcity. So an example is for our CourseMachine.io, we should have a done for you component. So I can literally only take on a certain amount of clients because my team has to have capacity to be able to deliver the done for you course build and deliver the done for you funnel. So during that process, there's only so much we can handle with the team's capacity. So there is actual scarcity around the number of people I can take on. That's legit scarcity. I'll also like to add, do you see how I used my own offer where I'm seeding my offer that is available to you, but just using it as an example in the steps of this process. So I'm kind of telling you about it, but I'm not going, hey, make sure you go buy my shit. So having a legit time that you are cut off, if there's a legit reason to have a cutoff time, or having an amount of people that you can take on scarcity also really helps. So that's number 3. Number 4, here's the word again, legit, 48-hour replay. So if you're creating a live webinar and you say the replay is going to be there for 48 hours, legit take it down, because next time you have a webinar, if you don't, guess what? No one's going to believe you. If you have an automated webinar And that's what we do in this particular funnel. Have your page set up on a timer so the cookies will recognize when they land on the page. Then have it set up that 48 hours after that, if they've already been on that page, it will automatically redirect them to another page to say that that has been taken down. Another way to automate a legit scarcity around time. The number 5 is instant access. If somebody wants to buy something from your webinar and you've just spent 60 minutes getting them all excited, and then you've got an offer for them where they're going to have to wait, it might be go and buy this thing and we're going to start in a week. They've got time to get cold feet. You want to make sure that they're nurtured. If it's something you can give them access to immediately, or a portion that you can give them access to immediately, make sure you do that as soon as they buy. As soon as they purchase, pay their money on the next page, give them access to the thing that they purchased. If it is something where you legit can't get started for another week or two, make sure you're giving them instant access to an area perhaps where they can go and do some pre-work. Give them some questions to think about during that time. Give them something to do so they feel like the ball is rolling, the momentum's moving. And then when your program starts in a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, they've already got the action in place. The next thing is number 6, chatbots. So when they're going through this process, having chatbots that are mirroring the emails is a powerful way to have people actually have conversations with you without the hurdle of having to jump on phone calls. If you don't have team to do the phone calls, you don't want to do phone calls yourself, or maybe people don't want to jump on phone calls anymore because that's just not how people do things now. I've had people who will buy done-for-you funnels and they don't want to get on calls. They'll just straight up pay thousands of dollars for full done-for-you funnels without jumping on calls. It's very common now. When I'm searching for holidays, I know what holiday I want. I want a travel agent to take my requests and go and find it. So many times on the website, they go, chat to us about your holiday. And then they want to get on a call with you. I don't want to get on a call. I already told you what I want. Go find it. Come back and tell me. It sounds like I'm being a bitch, but I just am super efficient with my time. And then the emails. So remember, there's going to be the people who have registered and watched, the people who have registered and didn't watch, the people who have registered and leave early, the people who have gone to the sales page from any of those or haven't. Maybe they've gone from an email and you want to retarget them because they haven't seen the offer. The biggest part here of this funnel is you're going to be delivering the content in different modalities. So number 8, most important feature is the highlight reel. Let's say you've got 60 minutes and in that 60 minutes, people might watch a few minutes or not show up, but they've opted in. Create a 10-minute or less highlight reel of the best stuff out of the webinar that will get them wanting to see the offer, and send them that highlight reel in the bot and in the email and say to them, hey, I know you didn't get time to watch the webinar yet. Totally understand. You're probably busy. So I made you a 10-minute highlight reel of the best parts so you don't miss out. And at the end of that 10 minutes, the call to action is to go to an offer page where you have another video which has your offer and a place that they can go and purchase. Send it by email, send it by bot. You can also do ad retargeting, depending on what platform you're on as well. And number 9 is audio. Let's say they don't want to watch the video, or let's say they don't have time to sit there and even watch the 10 minutes because they're always driving around, or they're out there running or walking and exercising or at the gym or driving kids around. Do an audio version, number 9. Give them an audio version that they can listen to on the go. And again, in that bot and in that email, say to them, hey, noticed you didn't get to watch the webinar or the highlight reel. Maybe it's better for you to actually listen to the audio, and give them the audio version. And then number 10, you will be so surprised to know that statistically, this is the modality that most people actually end up purchasing from, a printable guide. Hey, maybe you're the type of person that prefers to print off all the information, highlight the important bits, and write notes and questions, and then come back and ask questions. So I created for you a PDF version that you can download, a printable guide of the most important stuff that was covered in the webinar. That way, if they do like to hold the tangible paper in their hand and take notes, They absolutely can. And statistically, despite them opting in at the start for a webinar, it's the printable guide that actually has people come back and purchase, because in that guide, you have the call to action. So this is the 3-sided automated webinar funnel. You've got video, you've got audio, you've got PDFs. It is taking the same content, delivering it in multiple modalities so that you're covering all of the people's needs. Your delivery jam, their delivery jam, and then you can use them as standalone items that they can opt in for as well. You can then take the printable guide and create a lead magnet that is just for the printable guide. You can take the audio and create a lead magnet that is just for the audio. And same goes for the highlight reel. You can chuck that highlight reel in your social media, run ads to it, lead them back to the full webinar, and everywhere throughout this process, in the bots and in the emails, you're going to be leading them to a page that has the offer with a video walking them through what they're going to get. I am so confident that every time we've done this, it increases your sales conversions by including those 10 components. So that's it for this episode. I will see you on the next episode of the Funnel Podcast.